hello everyone. We just did like a whole travel through the universe, and that was super exciting, and thank you for that talk. And now we're going to do something completely different to wrap up the day. We are not scientists or cosmologists or anything like that. My name is Amelie, this is Iris, and thanks for having us speak today. It's our first time in Sofia, our first time in Bulgaria, so we're super happy to be here. And shout out to Alex for introducing us to the festival. Okay, so the unknown. This is the topic we've all been thinking about today. How do we relate to this topic? So we work as researchers within the tech and design realm, an industry that is driven by this idea of innovation, by the urge to develop new technologies, new modes of interaction, new ways of working to disrupt the status quo. So being embedded in this environment, we have to look forward into unknown futures and navigate all the predictions and promises that are being made about these futures and somehow make sense of these and make them our own. These promises come to us from all different directions in an increasingly rapid pace by this thing called hype, a difficult to grasp but powerful force that moves money and attention. Oh no, it's still, yeah.
What?
I think I'm still going.
Yeah.
So in the last year, we've been buffeted around by tech hype. First, the revolutionary promise of Web3, now the infinite potential of artificial intelligence. So today, we'll spend some time talking about tech hype, to share our approach to navigating hype in order to explore the unknown. But first, we're going to turn our gaze to hype itself. So what is it, how does it circulate, and is there a way to get a grip on it?
Okay, so maybe we should just switch. Okay, this is going to be a thing. We're going to both speak, so there will be changes of speakers. This is hello, thanks. So there are many definitions of what a hype is, but we have explored them all, and we have written them down and discussed them, but none of these seem to capture the experience of what a hype is, the full breadth of what it actually feels like to encounter a hype. So think about the dot-com bubble or Apple's famous keynote presentations, Steve Jobs and jeans on the stage, etc., etc. These were hypes that were built upon a certain type of anticipation, and they created moments that people cheered and clapped and even cried over. So the release of a new iPhone used to be this big thing, you know, that people were really, really looking forward to, and that was a huge event that really created something back in the days. So instead of starting with textbook definitions of what a hype is, we decided to just look at an old school tech hype to introduce the topic, the birth of the information age in the 80s. And I have to give a little warning, this video does contain a lot of lasers, and also the screen remains black for 10 long seconds, which is very long in our age of 3-second TikTok videos. But this is not a lag, this is the way that videos were actually made in the 80s. Oh, the sound.
The sound.
We forgot the sound.
There's no sounds.
Oh no. Wait.
Yeah, let's
go back.
Go back one more.
It's here, I think.
Okay.
Okay, technology, you know, it's happening.
Okay.
I think.
Test. There we go.
Uh-oh.
What is happening now is a more fundamental, profound change than mankind has ever experienced. Today looks nothing like our yesterday.
Okay, cool. So this is the information age. There are stars, there's music, there's a profound change. But what does this change actually look like?
We open our eyes in the 1980s and we see a world that's totally new. The most common everyday things in our lives are changing at an incredibly rapid pace. Watches aren't just watches, they're calendars. Clocks are radios. Music is video. Televisions aren't just for entertainment, they're for banking or getting a degree. Telephones aren't just for calling home anymore, they're for accessing data banks containing every conceivable kind of information.
Okay, and where will these changes then lead us?
Undersea cables and satellite technology made it possible for nations to communicate in a matter of seconds. Now, the science of light communications has turned the highways of yesterday into the superhighways of the information age, where our ideas travel on light-beam paths.
Okay, so an information superhighway leading to new futures. Great. Okay, so what just happened? We have been taken on a little journey, a tour through time and space. So as you saw in the beginning, there were lasers everywhere, there was a big change, and the future is basically now. Then we have been seeing watches that weren't just watches anymore. They are calendars, clocks are now radios, music is video, televisions aren't just for entertainment anymore, they are for education, and phones give us access to data banks of information. Now the science of light communications has turned the highways of yesterday into superhighways of the information age, where our ideas travel on light beam paths. The video goes on for 20 more minutes, highlighting how the world is spinning from all the opportunities the information age brings us. And these opportunities backed us to act now, to invest now, so that we can get a share of a global communications market that will be worth over $1 trillion by 1990. And industries will change, lives will change, the world will change. And the unknown has now given form, contains actual people, like these people, people that work, people that live their lives in this new reality. This video and its vision is, of course, a relic of the past. While we recognize the tropes, a new age is coming, technology is going to change everything, etc., etc. And some of the ideas expressed have actually become somewhat our reality. I mean, we all have phones that indeed give us access to endless information right now. This is a thing that we can look at, sit back and relax and look at this thing with a nostalgic smile on our faces. It doesn't mean that much to us anymore. But today's tech hypes, however, are a bit too close for that type of comfort. They are popping up everywhere and all at once. And as Devin Powers would say, the hype becomes, hype surrounds. To get a grip on these hypes, what we're actually now going to do is we're going to take you on a guided tour through some of the hypes that we have been seeing. We'll step into a hype that recently disappeared from our feeds and a present-day hype that currently surrounds us. We'll look not for truth or for proof or for predictions, but simply look at the stories, metaphors, and actors we encounter on our tour, at the rhetorical turns that allow hypes to unfold. We'll take a stroll through a hype. You can just sit back and let it surround you from a distance.
Okay, so it's 2021, early 2022. Snoop Dogg tells Vanity Fair that he's excited about crypto, Clubhouse, and NFTs. The rapper has spent the pandemic smoking weed and creating new music, and getting in on the latest tech crazes. We're going to be all right, he assures us. He holds a phone and flashes a peace sign. CNN publishes a video called Why Web3 is the Future of the Internet. It's 23 minutes, 14 seconds long. In it, Web 1 turns to Web 2, turns into a purple Web 3. Spheres and dollar signs move in different directions. We're told that Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the web, wants to correct its course. John Bruce, his co-founder, says, the privilege of working with the man who invented the web is he knows where it's going. Wired tweets, Web 3 is about decentralizing everything. An image of an arcade game with buttons that are labeled things like HODL and transfer tokens. Seen here, Spike Lee, the director of Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing, in an ad for a crypto company, wearing a hat, bow tie, suit, and walking stick that conjure up the Monopoly man.
7 million Americans have no bank accounts. 3 million other banks. Old money is not going to pick us up. They push us down. New money is positive. Inclusive. Fluid.
Old money pushes us down, new money is positive. As he put it in this 2007 commercial for Apple,
power is not found in the hairstyle. Power is something that comes from inside. Power is knowing your past. Power is changing your future.
power is knowing the past, power is changing the future. Elsewhere, YouTube eyes the infinite potential of NFTs in Web3. Tyler Winklevoss, the guy from Facebook, or more specifically, one of the twins from the social network, shares that Jack Dorsey sold his first tweet for over $2.9 million. Tyler says, brought to you by Web3. Virgil's Web3 plans surface. Michael Jordan launches a Web3 platform for athletes. Balenciaga announces a Web3 business unit. And Adidas announces a project called Into the Metaverse. Senior members of the Adidas team pose in the living room filled with vinyl records and bored apes. One of the apes wears a head-to-toe yellow Adidas tracksuit. Crypto is cool, now get on the yacht. A part physical, part digital person stands behind a DJ console in front of screens that shout, seed phrase, it's a party. Chris Dixon reports the common experience of friends becoming Web3 converts after going down the rabbit hole. Crypto Twitter asks goated American football player Tom Brady if he will turn on laser eyes. He does. His laser eyes look into the future as his family looks into the sunset. Adele tries to buy an original copy of the US Constitution. Paris Hilton and Jimmy Fallon talk about their respective NFTs.
This is your
That's
eight.
It's really cool. Shades.
Seen here, a crypto meme that uses the words Chad, Degen, DeFi, Farms, FOMO, FDV, Pumps, Shill, Tokens, Yield, and YOLO. Web3 made the internet fun again. Here, a website called Web3 is going just great and is definitely not an enormous grift that's pouring lighter fluid on our already smoldering planet. Frodo says, so you can't own the precious physically, but you can pay to have your name listed as its owner in an online distributed database. In a latecomer's guide to crypto, the New York Times asks, what is Web3 in front of a purple grid? Purple seems to be the color of Web3. Deloitte declares that Web3 and the metaverse are the next internet platform and asks, what does it mean for businesses, organizations, and society? The New York Times reports that execs and engineers are leaving big tech companies for a once-in-a-generation opportunity with crypto. At Medved writes, GM, Web3 is winning. People scramble to snatch up virtual real estate in what Fortune says could be a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. The crypto market is superheated. The Forbes Technology Council declares that Web3 is inevitable. A woman looks into VR, into the metaverse, and into the future.
In an article called A Coming Out Party for Generative AI, Silicon Valley's New Craze, tech journalist Kevin Roos writes, crypto and the metaverse are out, generative AI is in. Let's switch gears. Jump to 2023, a new era. The age of AI has begun, writes Bill Gates. AI is as revolutionary as mobile phones and the internet. We see a human brain, electrical nodes glowing at the center, connected to a book, a stethoscope, and a microscope. Bill Gates was here for the PC and internet revolutions, and he's here now for the AI revolution, excited about how it can help people everywhere to improve their lives. Accenture. AI will transform work and reinvent business. It will be for everyone. A finger moves towards a colorful circle that seems to be made out of magical dust. A quick Google search, prompt generative AI. Finger touching the A in AI. Robot finger touching a circle. Human finger touching a circle. Human and robot fingers touching same circle. It now glows. Human and robot finger touching each other. A light bulb in the middle. Human hand touches celestial finger. There is a blue glow now. Robot finger touches human finger. Almost. Tender caress of robot finger on human hand. The Da Vinci Code, Da Vinci's The Creation of Adam comes to mind. OpenAI's Twitter feed. A photo of an astronaut riding a horse, #Dolly, posted in the afternoon, April 6. There's a little color code in the corner right. Also, there's a space cowboy. AGI is going to be wild, tweets Sam Altman. A journalist is reflected in the blue sunglasses of OpenAI's Sam Altman. She's standing behind a fence, microphone in hand, in which she speaks. The man who unleashed AI on an unsuspecting Silicon Valley declares AI is not just a technological revolution, but something bigger, something that will touch all aspects of society. Is this the week AI changed everything? The reality is much more dizzying. Clippy, it appears, has touched the face of God. Throwback to Bill Gates handing sad Clippy a t-shirt as a retirement gift at the Office XP launch 2001. Elon Musk, lots of people stuck in a damn that's crazy ChatGPT loop emoji. Lots of likes, lots of retweets. Tom Foreman, CNN correspondent, reports on ChatGPT, the tech juggernaut. It can send notes to your mom in a very human-like way, he pronounced. 35 ways real people are using AI right now. It goes beyond everyday fiddling. People have started to use AI to supercharge work they could never have imagined, designing new molecules with the help of an algorithm or building alien-like spaceship parts. It's enormous fun. It's like collaborating with an alien. Harry Potter by Balenciaga.
You are Balenciaga, Harry.
Video ends with AI Harry using the deadly curse Avada Balenciaga. AI is like nuclear weapons. The new technology is beyond comparison. We see an apple next to a digital orange. General partner at Sequoia Capital, Andrew Reed, is simply stunned by the developments of GPT-4. Wow, he tweets. OpenAI's GPT-4 is so powerful that experts want to slam the brakes on generative AI. Fingers are no longer touching. There is suddenly a big red cross. In the Fast Company article, Professor of Psychology and Neuroscience Gary Marcus is quoted, who warned that AI may hit a so-called Jurassic Park moment, referring to a famous line in the 1993 film in which Jeff Goldblum's character warns, "Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could, they didn't stop to think if they should." What do you think of a Time cover story with the title, "The AI Arms Race is Changing Everything," asks Time magazine. The AI arms race is changing everything could be an attention-grabbing and thought-provoking title for a cover story on AI, replies ChatGPT. Hello there, AI Gold Rush. Robots sitting around a round table representing the companies that have reached unicorn status. The generative AI genie is well and truly out of the bottle. Apparently, it's a champagne bottle. New York Times reports AI funding frenzy escalates, quoting investor Matt Turk, "We're in that phase of the market where it's like, let 1,000 flowers bloom. A dollar bill is made out of green digits." CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, expresses both optimism and worry about the AI race, but we will definitely see them be bold. Illustration by Laura Salafia. Sam Altman holds the OpenAI logo in his hands, the other hand in his pocket. The logo glows. The title of the New York Times article, "The ChatGPT King isn't worried, but he knows you might be." Another Google search for generative AI. Robot hand holding space cube. Human hands surrounding AI brain. Human hand holding computer ball. Robot hand holding dashboards, I guess. Human hands holding AI. Robot hand holding AI brain. Should I do it? No, I can't do it. Whispering in this microphone is a little bit too daunting, but it says generative AI, and then there will be goosebumps.
Nice. Okay, so having gone through those tours, like, what's the impression? The impression is that hype stack. A tweet, an article, a podcast, a meme. These impressions build one on top of the other. And while each hype undoubtedly has its own flavor, they both emerge in a media landscape that is informing their shape and velocity. So the technological developments that were subject to some of the earlier tech hypes, think information superhighway, have themselves become vehicles for hype. And together with new developments like Web 2 and AI, form a context that thirsts for and thrives off of hype. The clickbaity headline, the viral tweet, the hot take, this is what makes us click and our digital culture tick today. The result, it feels like today's tech hypes boom and bust faster, engulf rather than surround, and that the next thing is always just around the corner. So how can we make sense of the phenomenon, and what can we glean from these tours of hype? What patterns can we see? So now we're going to break it down. At the heart of these hypes, there are a few recurring narratives. So first, immediacy. It's happening now, and inevitability. It's happening for sure. Think the age of AI has begun. This narrative becomes particularly potent if the revolution to come is a long-awaited answer to an existing problem, like the internet is broken, Web3 is here to save it. Second, scale and impact. This new technology will touch all aspects of life. It will change how we work, communicate, create, care, learn, live. The impact will be beyond our imagination. Generative AI is going to help us write our grocery list, but it's also going to redefine what it means to be human. The nowness and realness of the inevitable change pushes us to take action, to jump on the bandwagon, to be part of the revolution. Think Web2 engineers are jumping ship, or the AI gold rush is on. In the new era, there will be winners and losers. The time to act, to redirect your time, money, and attention is now. So together, these narratives serve as the rhetorical heart of a tech hype. With every milestone, like Adidas announces a Web3 collaboration, or an AI passes a biology exam with an A+, the story gets a little or a lot stronger. Fueling the spread of these narratives is language, so how the stories are told. So first, we can talk about sweeping statements. Think Web3 is the future of the internet. These phrases are compelling enough to spark the imagination, but vague enough that they could mean anything to anyone. For some, the vagueness is frustrating, but for others, it's proof of the tech's emergingness. So why don't we know what Web3 is? Because we're in the process of defining it. This is what it feels like on the new frontier. Hypes promise a change, a breath of fresh air. They need just enough novel, unfamiliar jargon to indicate that something groundbreaking and potentially magical is happening. So umbrella terms like Web3, metaverse, invite everyone in and provide a rallying point, a North Star, even if we're not really sure what these words mean. Hype-specific slang like Web3's WAGME or we're all gonna make it provide the sense that a new movement is growing. These new terms legitimize the field and support the hype's inevitability. As we're dealing with new technologies, hypes fall back on familiar, even nostalgic tropes. So borrowing from original promises, deeply held beliefs, and tech origin stories, these tried and true tropes serve as shortcuts into the inevitability of the hype. So think Web3 and the idea of technology as a democratizing force. But it's not just written statements, as we saw. It's also the visuals. So scenes from Jurassic Park, Da Vinci's creation of Adam, even Microsoft's Clippy. These are remediations of visual tropes that are deeply embedded in our collective memory. So by speaking in terms that are vague but compelling, familiar but novel, this language lends force to the narratives at work. Next level. To carry these narratives and language, we have voices. So visionaries like OpenAI's Sam Altman have no qualms about making the big claims or of using sweeping statements. They have the following to give key narratives momentum. Industry players have a track record of commercial or technological success. So Tim Berners-Lee, Bill Gates, companies like Adidas, they've been right before and they'll be right again. Think the privilege of working with the man who invented the web as he knows where it's going. Like any campaign, hypes often have celebrity endorsements, and the type of celebrity depends on the tech hype. But in the case of Web3, think Paris Hilton, Snoop Dogg, Michael Jordan. You then have the critics. So hypes speed up a little tension, a little outrage. If the emerging technology will result in winners and losers tomorrow, there should be proponents and critics today. Hype deals in attention, and you don't fear or critique what is not worthy of it. Not convinced by all the discourse, this is where the everyday people come in. Stories of how regular people are already using ChatGPT or converted to Web3 make the narratives relatable. So together, these voices, individual and institutional, both wield and provide momentum to narratives and language. And these elements play off of one another, creating a movement and momentum that is hype, this surrounding force we've been talking about. Okay, so all this taken together, the narratives and language, the urgent calls to action can fuel an emotional response, like excitement or fear, or actually just a retreat, a checking out, a feeling of, it's all too much, I'm out. Hype can create a lack of clarity, a vantage point clouded by magical dust. But if we think about tech hype as repeating stories with recurring characters and as part of a larger historical context, we can gain a little distance from the urgency it aims to create. We can step out from that which surrounds. And in doing so, we can gain some agency in the situation. So we can create for ourselves some room to maneuver and a more grounded starting point for exploration into the unknown. So with this distance, what spaces do we create as researchers in the field?
Okay, yeah, at this point you must be thinking, who the hell are you? So this is a little bit of a explanation of who we are and what we do. So we are forming a research team together in a digital studio. And as a research team, we are dedicated to unpacking and reframing trends, testing modes of collaboration, and identifying opportunities within this ever-changing landscape of emerging tech. So I already mentioned we work at a studio called Bakken&Bæck. It's a Norwegian studio. We simply call it BB because it's easier. And it's this tech-driven design studio named after our two founders, Tobias Beck and Johan Bakken. And we are roughly a team of 70 people. And it's a pretty mixed team. So it has a lot of engineers across the entire spectrum of technological development, designers, both product designers, brand designers, art directors, etc., writers, strategists, business developers, researchers, which is me and Amelie, creative technologists, and basically everything between. So there are a lot of designers that also develop in the other way around within our studio. And we have offices in Oslo, Amsterdam, Bonn, London, and Barcelona, and we work remotely as one team. So Amelie is actually based in Berlin, I'm based in Rotterdam, but I work for the Amsterdam office. And from designers to engineers, I guess what we share as a team is this interest in experimenting with new tech. Like no matter where you sit in a company, this is something that we all care about. So we're always looking for new ways to apply these new technologies, from implementing them within digital products that we already have developed, or prototyping completely new ideas, environments, or interactions. And one of these fields we have been exploring lately is the field of spatial computing, so all the Rs, AR, VR, XR, etc., which we then use to create these new bridges between physical and digital realms, and we do that with a lot of different companies. We also have been working with machine learning and AI for a decade to develop new design tools, or track sport games, or predict room setups, or develop voice user interfaces, all of these different things. We also have been heavily involved in the blockchain space, actually shaping what decentralized systems might look like, how they function, the interactions needed on these platforms, etc. And that also moves from branding to product design to the actual tech. And more broadly, we also have been exploring how we can apply. What is this beep? Do you also hear it? Is that in the mic or? Oh, okay. Okay. And more broadly, we have been exploring how we can apply these new technologies to help companies make more radical changes. So how can we help them move away from linear to circular economy models, for instance, and instill these new conversations around sustainability? In sum, I think as a studio, there's a lot of other things that we can say about BB, but that's not really the focal point of this talk. But what we do care about is to really walk the serendipitous path of discovery, and we try to push for new ways of working with emerging tech. And we do that both in and outside project context. And me and Amelie are both embedded within that team as sort of like an internal team that you will speak a little bit more about, right?
Yes.
Oh no, to make sure we stay ahead of the curve, like a little PS, BB has built a culture that prides itself on experimentation. And as I said, like the research track is a manifestation of this attitude. So BB's investment in diving deeper into the complexities that surround new technologies and systems. So this hype talk that we just went through is one of the things that we have been exploring in the last couple of months.
Okay, so I just need to do this thing because it's driving me crazy. Yeah. Cool. There we go. End of the day, you know, we get small wins. Okay. So how do we do this? How do we embody the spirit of experimentation? How do we manifest it as a research track? So we work in defined cycles, each dedicated to a different topic. So these cycles give us space to explore the unknown on our own terms. They allow us to safely test the waters, pursue questions that have arisen either from within the studio or the context beyond. So we're just going to tell you about a couple of those projects towards the end of our talk here. So North Sea was a multi-month experiment in defining and prototyping a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. So a pillar in the Web3 hype, I'll just do like a really high-level thing. DAOs promised a new paradigm for collaboration, one that, thanks to blockchain technology, would be more inclusive, democratic, transparent, frictionless, and global. So named for the body of water that connected the countries that we work in before we opened an office in Barcelona, the North Sea was our way of testing the waters, of bringing all of our different disciplines and capabilities to the table to ask, what is a DAO and what utility could it have for a design studio like ours? So over the course of the project, we explored different potential use cases. So what could we do with a DAO? We explored everything from decentralizing internal decision-making processes to building a community beyond the studio, which was committed to exploring the future of the internet. We dove deep into available tooling and platforms and defined and prototyped our own tech stack, which included figuring out what blockchain we were going to prototype on, writing our own smart contract, exploring different discussion and voting platforms. It's like super unflattering photo of all of us, but that's what it was like. We investigated DAO mechanics, including tokens, incentives, voting methods, and overall governance. This is an early sketch of designs for our two tokens for the North Sea, barnacles and seashells. We considered the role of storytelling in developing a DAO, asking questions like, what role does myth-making and world building have in creating an online community? And how can we break the written languages and visual, aka purple, aesthetics that were dominating the Web3 space? And how can we simplify the onboarding experience, lowering the thresholds and opening this mode of collaboration up to a broader audience? Okay, so through this hands-on experimentation and through our own sort of deep sea dive, we came to understand something we would not have known otherwise. A DAO was not for us. It's a high threshold format that is most valuable in a small sliver of use cases. And while the discourse around DAOs made them sound simply and easily managed, like these frictionless processes managed through the blockchain, the format actually requires constant conceptualization, adaptation, and facilitation by many different hands. But by feeling out the unknown for ourselves, a big chunk of our team now has experience applying their expertise to this experimental space. We developed our own languages and frames of reference, and as a studio, we're now much better positioned to engage with core concepts about the new promised internet, to know where to start and understand the key considerations.
Okay, and another research project that we did actually simultaneously, which was interesting. We also stepped into the generative AI domain at the beginning of 2021, trying to navigate the abstract discourse that's around it. So we really try to look into the technical system that lies underneath. And like with North Sea, we decided not to think too much about it, but really to just dive in and be hands-on, bringing two of our core disciplines, visual design and machine learning, closer together with the aim of developing new ways to interact with the black box as a metaphor, and also try to understand, like, are there ways that we can actually roam the black box, because it's such an abstract concept. While the mental image of the black box rightfully conveys that deep learning processes are inherently hard to conceive in human cognition, they are multidimensional, so it's very hard for us to really understand what this mathematical space looks like. It also, this metaphor really reduces and simplifies and obscures the computational complexity it captures, and it also positions us as users of these models without agency, basically, and with little hope for further understanding. It's just a black box, you know, like, what's our relation to the thing? So how can we better understand this logic that is so different from our own, and how can we explore the n-dimensional spaces by building new interfaces on top of them? So what we wanted to do in sum is to experiment with ways that we could provide glimpses into the complexity of machine learning, interactions that would allow us to explore without getting lost in the mathematical mazes. So we moved towards this idea of developing a machine window, an interface that acknowledges the barrier between humans and computer logic while still providing us some means to look through it. So I will give a very high-level summary of what we did. So we, again, did a 3-month research cycle, this time with a resident on board, with visual artist and machine learning researcher Klaartje Barkhoff, and with support from the Dutch Creative Industries Fund. We created 2 interactive interfaces that open up the latent space of image-generating neural networks. And the first interface, here you see an overview of that, allows users to walk the latent space. It's kind of like an introduction to this space. And you can make a path of your own making. It's quite simple. You put different points into the latent space, and that generates these basic geographic shapes. And then you get a glimpse of how the model organizes information and the vast visual material it contains. Because in theory, it contains endless visual material depending on where you put your point. And then it generates a lot of images between those points. And then these are some of the outputs that were generated, and there you can see how it moves from one point to the other, and then you see all the potential images that you could create with it. And the second interface invites you to create a composition with our second neural network, and while doing so, observe the unique artifacts the network produces in this pursuit of visual connection. So it's basically a grid. You start generating one point on that grid, and then the next one next to it, and then it tries to, based on some visual constraints, match the image next to it. And then you have these grids, and you can interact with it on multiple levels. You can control it a little bit. You can change the models. You can also change, if you're not happy with it, you can regenerate, etc., etc. But it's very basic, very simple interactions with the latent space to sort of give you a small insight in how these things work without sending you mathematical formulas only. And here you see the search process of the computational composition. So you see how it slowly starts to fill the grid and how it learns from what it sees next to the different images next to it. And we published this alongside an essay that outlined our thinking on the topic, which does this research project much more justice, because we have been writing and talking about this for a long time. We don't have time to talk about it as much today, but you will find this essay on Bakken&Bæck.com, which you can also access both tools. And there we also talk much more about the metaphors that are being used within this space and how we have been working with the models and how we have been designing them, etc., etc. Well, as we have been talking about quite a lot today, the field of generative AI is notoriously opaque. While it's easy to interact with systems like ChatGPT, it becomes tricky as soon as we try to dive into its underlying models, which remain accessible and knowledgeable to only a few. And even there, it's a lot of question marks of what the model is actually doing. And with this project, we explored the role of interface design, visual language, copy, and surfacing elements of the machine's logic, showing you more, so giving you a bit more context, a little bit more information, and a little less sort of like cool images, and not less. So don't make it too user-friendly, let the user actually explore the thing, and don't make it too easy for them, because that's the way we think you can learn to deal with these systems. We engaged with the neural networks as a team of people who had different entry levels into the system. So as I said, there were designers involved, but also actual machine learning engineers that have been working with this stuff for a long, long time. But they usually interact with other machine learning engineers, and they had to really adapt their language to talking to the designers and trying to understand, like, okay, how can we actually talk about this stuff without talking about mathematics? And this forces us to constantly translate, zoom in and out, and in the end meet each other in that wide open space between disciplines. So that we could place that window that we talked about at the right level of complexity and make the unknowable dimensions of the neural network more accessible to a larger group of people, because that's in the end what we aim to do. But it was a little bit like a dance with the neural network, basically. Should I just continue?
Yeah, I can do it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're wrapping up
Yeah.
here. Yeah, the home stretch. So these projects, we showed you two projects, the North Sea and this machine windows, and they vary quite hugely in fidelity. You can just see it from the quality of visuals that we're showing you. The North Sea was internal and messy, whereas machine windows is public and polished. But with both, as a practice and as a way of approaching, we turned away from sweeping statements and simplification and aimed more towards more nuance, more detail, towards augmenting complexity. So through the act of making, we developed our own points of view and our own common languages, better positioning us to be able to identify future areas of interest and possibility. We made our own way through the unknown of the hype. So this space for experimentation was afforded to us by the act of stepping back, of widening our view, of gaining that distance we talked about back when we were talking about the model of hype. So by looking not just at the current hypes that engulf us, but the broader phenomenon of hype, we can gain a little space and a little breathing room to shape our explorations into the unknown. Thank you.